Howdy.
Sorry, about savings.
Yeah.
Were you satisfied with the level of savings that the public service coffer for the budget?
The ACT Party will always want the government to save more than it ever will, but I also know that it's saving more than it would without us. So, am I satisfied? Not compared to my ideal. Am I happy with the contribution that I've made to the budget? Yes, and there's always be another budget to save more.
Can I ask how your contribution this time sort of influenced some of the changes or some of the savings that came in? Were there areas that you were particularly interested in? I mean, why was it different with you being involved?
Last year I was specifically asked by Nicola to save money around MB. This time it was broader across a range of ministries. And I think it's fair to say that some of them were really good and wanted to find ways to save money. Others didn't. But it was pretty broad ranging. And look, we've saved some money, not as much as I'd like, but my contribution is to make the suggestions so that people can choose.
And I'm not going to ask you ahead of budget what you did say, but can you, is there particular sort of areas in particular work programs in different ministries that were targeted?
Oh, look, I just can't start talking about stuff like that, So no, we've saved some money for the taxpayer, but you know me, always keen to do more.
In terms of keen to do more, where were the areas you would have liked to push and prod a wee bit more?
Look, to be honest, I struggled to narrow it down.
There's been some criticism from opposition parties about the lack of a regulatory impact statement with the Equity Law Changes Bill equal to urgency. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I understand that, but they also know that the regulatory impact analysis regime allows to do analyses after the fact, and that's what's being used in this particular case. It's always been part of the rule. All governments of all stripes have used it, and ultimately, as long as it's been used for the right reason, I think there's reasons to do this rapidly, given that there's some people who are taking action or might take action as a result of the law change, then I think that's okay.
But you didn't get an exemption for it?
Well, I wouldn't get an exemption.
Sorry, Cabinet did not get an exemption from creating a RIS, did they?
Well, whether I'd have to come back to you on that exact detail.
It says it in the Cabinet paper.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not mega memory, but in any event, the question is whether it is acceptable, and I think the circumstances are met here.
Well, it's your ministry that grants the exemptions, right? So they've determined that you shouldn't have got an exemption from creating a regulatory impact statement from this. So why wouldn't you?
No, I understand that, but the point is that the Cabinet ultimately makes decisions, and as I was talking about this morning in relation to the Regulatory Standards Bill, it's up to the people to judge whether that's acceptable. I think people will say, we understand that they didn't follow every rule in terms of RIS, but we think that's okay this time, for the reasons that I've given, that we are going back to an earlier law that's been widely thrashed out, that we're not creating new restrictions on how people can behave in our society, we're actually reducing restrictions, and I think that's acceptable.
What's the point in having these rules if Cabinet just makes decisions?
Well, the point of having the rules is that they allow the voter to understand how the Cabinet is behaving. If they do follow a particular rule, or if they don't. Beg your pardon?
Do you accept that it's badly this time?
Do I accept that? What? Sorry, that
it's bad lawmaking this time.
No, I don't, for the reasons that I've given several times in stand-ups today. One is that we're reverting to something that has already been widely road tested. We're really going back to the criteria that we had, 5 years ago, and that was extensively road tested. Second of all, we're not going out and putting a whole lot of new restrictions on what people can do with their lives. If anything, we're increasing the freedom to contract instead of having people pulled into what I would describe as quite an unworkable and calcified pay equity regime. So for those reasons, I think it's acceptable. MFR can make their judgment, but I look at the whole thing and say, okay, they make their judgment. The people ultimately make up their mind. Politicians have to choose how to interact between the two of those. Now, I've just realised it's actually, sorry, I don't want to say, I had to do a radio interview before this, so I was late, and I'm happy to come out and talk to you a bit later. But I had some experience of being late due to press conference, and I never forget. See you later.